Hello, everyone, and welcome to the podcast channel where we discuss careers in tech and job search experience for immigrants in the US. I'm your host, Anna Naumova, an immigrant myself and also a former product manager at Apple. And I'm thrilled to be here sharing my knowledge and insight with you. Are you a non-technical product manager, entrepreneur, or recruiter who finds it difficult to communicate with engineers? Do you wonder how technical a product manager should be and how to acquire that knowledge? Today, in this engaging conversation, we have a seasoned expert who will shed light on this question and provide valuable insight. Stay tuned to gain a deeper understanding and enhance your skills. But before we get started, I'd like to ask you, please subscribe to my channel. Each week, I release new video covering various topics about product management, job search, and immigration to the US. Your support is very important to me. If you are interested in becoming a sponsor of this channel or you need help with your resume or LinkedIn profile, please visit annanaumova.com for more information. You can find a link to my website in the description below. Okay, my guest today is Zeeshan Syed, a founder of Tech Talk for Non-Developers, an educational program for non-technical product managers, entrepreneurs, and recruiters that helps better understand and communicate more effectively with developers. Hi, Zeeshan. Thank you for joining me today.
Hey, Anna, thank you very much for having me. Happy to be here.
Absolutely. And I really like your background.
Thank you.
Where
Very
did it come
futuristic.
from? Very futuristic. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So can you please share a bit about yourself and provide some insights about your background?
Yeah, sure. So firstly, thanks so much for having me and everything. So my background is I'm actually not a product manager. I'm actually a software developer who's worked with quite a few product managers throughout my career. I've been a software developer for over 10 years. Worked with some large companies like Getty Images. Perhaps you and your audience have heard of Getty Images.
I know.
But
I used to
yeah.
work with Getty Images long time
Oh,
ago. Yeah.
interesting. Okay, very cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I was a senior software engineer there, and prior to that, I was working at some other larger companies. But in any case, a few years ago, I was actually sitting in a morning meeting with a bunch of software developers and a couple of product managers, and I noticed that one of the product managers that was in that meeting she looked like she was a bit on edge. So I went up to her after the meeting and I said, "Hey, Ruby, is everything okay? You look like you were a bit uneasy during that meeting." And she told me something that has stuck with me to this day. She said, "I have no idea what you developers are talking about." And that conversation transitioned to me having like a one-on-one coffee with her where I explained what version control was. So I explained how everything worked in version control and what the terminology that we use regularly is. And from there, I started. I decided to mentor her, and she told me that what I was teaching her was actually really helpful to her and possibly some other product managers. So I started speaking with product managers from all the big tech companies, Apple, Google, Facebook, and every single one of them told me the same thing, where you don't need to be a developer in order to be a good product manager, but you need to have some technical literacy in order to do your job and communicate effectively with developers. So I decided to create a course called Tech Talk for Non-Developers. To date, I have over 500 product managers who have enrolled. I've taught over 1,000 students, over 1,000 product managers through live sessions and through my course. And regularly create content and just do my best to educate non-technical folks on what it is that us developers do regularly.
Perfect. Let's talk about challenges. What specific challenges do non-technical individuals face when working with developers?
Oh man, that's that's a big one. But you know what? I think what I've seen without technical knowledge is that product managers tend to struggle understanding where work is as far as the development pipeline is concerned. Like if you're working on a feature and your developer says like, "Oh, it's almost done. I'm just merging in the feature branch." what does that even mean? Like in your mind, like, are you like 90% done? Are you 20% done? Like that's the kind of stuff that, you know, a lot of product managers struggle with. Progress meetings tend to be a lot more difficult when you're not able to follow and understand the lingo. You know, I've met with product managers who actually get anxiety leading up to their meeting with their developers, mostly because they don't want to look or feel stupid. And you know, for all the product managers who are listening, like, you know, be honest with yourself. Like, how often have you felt this way where you didn't want to ask a silly question because you don't come from a technical background? You know, it's not uncommon for misunderstandings to happen because of conflating terminology. I've worked with product managers who have told a director that an upcoming feature was going to be ready to test by the end of the week, but then when the director goes on to production, the feature wasn't there. As it turns out, that feature was on a different environment. So just that understanding of what an environment is and where the stuff is going in where the feature is in the pipeline, that can sometimes, I guess, like be, I wouldn't say it's make or break, but it can certainly boost a little bit of boost your credibility and make it seem as if you have you know, a good hold on what's going on as far as your development team, as far as the product development is concerned. So, I mean, there's lots of examples I can give of that, but that kind of is, hopefully that gives like a gist of what it's like without technical knowledge.
Yeah, absolutely agree. I don't have technical background. I have marketing background, but yes, I learned over my career to understand developers, and I pretty understand when you like join a new project, new company, the technology is new, the language is new, like everything is new, like stack is new, I don't know, tools they're using is new, like, and it's really hard sometimes to understand. So I personally, how I manage that, I'm not afraid of asking questions. Why I don't understand you, please explain. So I'm not that type of person how I'm afraid of feel stupid. Yeah, I'm okay to feel stupid. Yeah, that actually helps me to move in this direction. Cool.
Yeah.
So when it comes to product managers, what level of technical knowledge or proficiency do you believe is essential for their role? You've already mentioned to be able to conduct this conversation and understand where the product is going, or like anything else, like specific they have to know. Yeah.
Specifically, well, let me. I'll start off high level, and then we'll dive into some specifics. But I believe that it's far more important to understand concepts over code. Because, and when I say, when I say concepts, I mean understanding like the concepts behind like a RESTful API or the concepts behind a database. Because when you learn those concepts, you're not just specific. Those concepts are not specific to just one language. So you mentioned like when you join a new team, the tech stack is different, the tools are different. But when you understand the concepts that those tools are revolving around, it doesn't even matter what language or what tool or whatever framework your development team is using, because you're able to gain some very transferable skills that allow you to move from one company to another. It doesn't even matter which industry that you're in, because the technical technical concepts will always stay the same for the most part, regardless of whether you're working at Getty Images, or you're working in health tech, or you're working in like, say, a marketing firm that has some tech or whatever it may be. The tech that your developers will be using for the most part will stay the same, and just understanding those concepts, that's something that will make you very framework agnostic and you know, really set you up for success.
So do you understand correctly that like understanding this concept is like enough level of technical knowledge for a product manager to work with developers? I'm just like digging into actually coding, because sometimes I hear that, oh, I need to code, I don't know how to code. And is coding is necessary skill for product manager, or can they be like really great product managers without coding experience?
So in my honest opinion, and based on the product managers that I've spoken with, coding is not necessary. And I mean, there may be some roles where the product managers have to do some coding. I don't know if that's always a good thing, but for the majority of of product managers, I don't feel as if learning how to code is really that necessary. It certainly can give you somewhat of an edge, But the thing about coding is that um, most people who are forced to learn how to code will never be very good at it. And it's hard to actually become very good at development, software development, unless you actually have a passion for it and you're doing it regularly. So don't learn how to code, because most of the time people won't actually be very good at it unless you actually want to become a developer. Then you can struggle a little bit until you get good at it. But when you learn how to code, you take some basic coding courses, it's very easy to get to go down a rabbit hole and get very overwhelmed. And many people start learning things the wrong way. They don't really know what to learn. I knew a product manager once who wanted to be an API product manager, and they were learning HTML and CSS because they thought that was going to help them. And they were kind of veering off into into the wrong direction if that was what they wanted to become at the end of the day. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of teaching product managers how to code, because I don't think it's really that useful. I think concepts over code is far more important. But being technical, I think, is very different than knowing how to code.
Perfect. And I really like your concept statement about, like, if you don't have patience to code, you will never be a good coder. Yeah. And I got in this trap probably 7 years ago. And I decided, okay, Anna, you're a product manager, you have to code. Yeah. And I started learning Python. I learned Python. I even created some basic program, I don't know, calculator or so. And
yeah, I see those.
I didn't like that. I didn't like it all. And I spent a lot of time learning Python, and I forgot it completely. Right, like after I finished, I passed my exam, I completely forgot about it, and I've never used that knowledge, actually. Really, like over like the next 7 years, I've never used Python in my work. So that's why I just spend my time. Maybe it's good, like it's just like extra point in my background. Okay, Anna, you used to learn code, but you've never been a coder. You've never coded, and I'm not a good coder. It's not like what I like, really. Like, I have no patience. I won't be a good coder anyway. So
and there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with it. Like, there's plenty of things that product managers do that I would never be very, very good at, and I have no interest in. And it's just about building a team that has complementary skills and allowing all of us to work together. So that's definitely important to keep in mind.
Okay. But if we dig deeper a little bit about details, like what technical skills should product manager have to enhance in their role? Like, we understand about concepts are the key, but talking about like specific maybe technical skills, I don't know, API, for example. Can you give me some overview?
No, that's a good question. So I've kind of boiled it down to probably three things on a high level. So database design, API design, and system design. Those are the three concepts I think product managers should actually focus majority of their time on. Like, there's other things as well that don't really fall into those three categories, but I think if you have a good understanding of those three, then that the rest will kind of fall into place.
And can you explain why?
Yeah, so regarding API design, I mean, like, API is essentially how the front end communicates with the back end, and how two code bases kind of exchange information, or like work together. Actually, like, two code bases are able to work together. So API. So when it comes to API design, the most common types of APIs would be REST APIs, and they can be built using many different languages. So you mentioned that you did a little bit of work in Python. You can learn Python and learn how to build an API in Python, but are you actually going to use Python in your day-to-day? And what happens when all of a sudden your team changes their Python code base to a Node.js code base? Now you're just like, okay, I spent all this time learning the syntax for Python, but now I can't actually. Now I don't know what to do, because the syntax in Node.js is completely different than it is in Python. So that's why it's important to understand. It's important to understand, like, the concepts within a REST API. Like, what is a request? What is a response? What is a method? What is an endpoint? What is a status code? Because these 5 components of a REST API, that's universal across all languages, across all frameworks. It doesn't matter which framework or language you use. If you're building a REST API or communicating with the REST API, those are the terms that are always going to be used, and those are the concepts that's going to revolve around. So it just kind of goes to show that if you master the concepts or the fundamentals, everything else will kind of fall into place. And the same thing with database design. When you understand how data is structured, that kind of allows you to that kind of sets a foundation for you and allows you to really hit the ground running, regardless of what tech stack your developers are using.
Perfect. And how about artificial intelligence and machine learning? That's a lot of hype right now about AI and ML, and it seems to be a surge of AI product management programs. How significant is it for PMs to have AI knowledge in today's landscape?
Yeah, I mean that's an interesting question. So I can only really answer that from a technical standpoint. This would obviously only apply if you're building a product in the AI space. But just similarly to everything else that I mentioned, learning the terminology when it comes to AI is obviously important. Knowing like data is like the heart of AI. That's how artificial intelligence are made. So knowing where data is coming from, whether it's cleaned or uncleaned data, knowing where does the data need to be purchased from somewhere else, or do you have enough data? Like a list of 50 users is not a lot of data. Like a few thousand users, maybe that's a bit better. So if you have to get that data from elsewhere, terminology such as like supervised learning versus unsupervised learning. Yesterday I was actually speaking with a product manager who was actually in the AI space, and she brought up a really interesting point I'll share with everyone here, and that is you have to ask yourself if what you are doing is ethical as far as AI is concerned. So how much data are you collecting from your users, and are you telling your customers how much data you're collecting? Obviously different countries will have rules and regulations, so you want to make sure that you follow that. I guess like sometimes you have to actually think a bit more. As a product manager, you obviously have to think, like miles ahead. And that also, and in order to do that, when you have like a certain degree of technical knowledge, that just becomes a lot easier, because now you know what is possible and what might be possible, somewhere down the road. And I mean, like there's other things, like learning maybe learning some algorithms here and there. So you can at least communicate effectively with your developers or different clusters of different teams across the organization. Yeah, those are probably the most important things. And system design, which it tends to be scaling up when you're building AI products, because there's lots that's going on.
Yeah, I agree. And I checked a few of these AI product management programs, and it seems really superficial for me. There is no deep learning about AI. So I'm not sure that these specific AI courses for product managers is like important to getting this knowledge. So I haven't tried it yet, but I would rather maybe learn a little bit like code for like junior engineers, something like that, to understand it better. Because as I mentioned, there is just super superficial. It's not even concept. I don't know. It's maybe concept, but in a high level, like, we can use AI for prioritization, but how exactly you can use, like, there is no clue.
What's interesting, Anne, is that like everything you've just mentioned is actually the very reason to why I started teaching product managers tech. Because what I found when I was doing my search for technical training for product managers, I found that the material out there was either too high level and completely impractical, or far too low level and really just meant for developers. So who knows? I mean, at some point in time, I may release another course on AI for product managers that dives a bit deeper in the same way that I'm diving deeply into everything for Web 2.0. But yeah, who knows? Like at some point, that is the goal. So we'll see where that goes.
Since we started talking about your program, maybe you can provide a deeper overview about your program. We already touched that. Who is that for? Like, what are you doing? Maybe something like more specific. What the typical audience that enroll in your courses? Who is purchasing your program? Like me, Anna Naumova can purchase your program, right? So like
Yeah.
non-technical product manager, with like who wants to better understand their developers, and what
Yeah.
exactly like do you teach there?
Yeah. So my course, just to recap, my course is called Tech Talk for Non-Developers. So what I teach is the A to Z of app development without learning how to code. So I do teach some things over that a bit more low level to some extent. Like I do get into I guess like low level programming versus high level programming. I do get into and then get into a bit like some more high level stuff that I think is universal across all industries, like database design, API design. We actually do design like a full-fledged social media application with the database as well as the APIs. So there's lots of like really practical knowledge I'm sharing there. But to answer your first question, my typical audience or people who enroll in my course are, I guess, non-tech product managers who come from non-technical backgrounds. I was initially targeting folks who were probably in the 0 to 3 year mark as far as experience is concerned, but I've had product managers who have like 5+ years of experience who are enrolling in my program. I have a lot of directors of product management and a couple of chief product officers who purchased the course for their for all their team members. A few companies are actually using my course as part of their onboarding process. So that's really exciting. But mostly my course is for product managers, but I have quite a few technical program managers as well who have enrolled. I have some technical recruiters who have enrolled. I mean, all the course is really meant for anyone who works with developers, but my target audience are product managers who are just looking to understand what developers are saying and communicate more effectively with them and overall just build better products. So hopefully that answers the question there.
Perfect. Yeah, like, and as far as I understand, it's more like junior, right? So the product managers with like 10+ years of experience probably already know technical stuff.
Let's hope, yeah. But
yeah. Yeah. Okay. Perfect. Yeah. So let's talk about outcome. What are the outcome participants can expect from your program?
Yeah. So at the end of the day, no matter what language or framework your developers are using, the curriculum that I created can help you. Can really help you hit the ground running at any tech company, regardless of which industry that you're in. So I teach universal concepts. I'm very framework and language agnostic, because I don't think that's stuff that's necessary for product managers to know. But as mentioned before, the concepts that I teach are things that every developer and every company will actually be at least mentioning at least once or twice on a daily basis. So regardless of which language or framework your development team is using, that is the app that my curriculum can help you get started at any tech company, and that is actually the guarantee that I give. As far as my curriculum and material is concerned.
Cool. Any specific companies, like size of the type of the companies and industry that you are focusing on, or like it can be used for any type of companies?
Yeah, the size is not too important, but I guess as far as the size, if the company is pretty large, then I mean, depending on how they're organized, perhaps some people might be siloed off, so it may not. So some of the knowledge may not really be that necessary, but that's not really something I focus on too much. The actual the concepts that I'm teaching are just universal for anyone who's working in tech, closely with developers.
Perfect. Maybe we can do some teaser. Can you provide some valuable tip from your program? Let's teaser the audience.
Well, let's see. I mean, I am actually teaching. So if you're curious to know how Netflix is designed, if you're curious to know how Google Drive is designed, if you're curious to know how Uber, Slack, and some of the applications that you use regularly are designed, but you have but you have no interest in learning how to code, then check out nondevelopers.co, and you'll get the answers that you're looking for.
Perfect. So after your program, I will know how Netflix is designed, like Google,
Yep.
etc. That's interesting. Especially for folks who've never worked at that company. That might be cool. So let's talk about 2023. We know this year the market is rough. Considering this current job market, how important is for non-technical folks to learn technical stuff?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say, it's probably more important now than it's ever been for non-technical people to gain some degree of technical literacy. And I'll give you some a specific example of what I saw back in 2011, 2012 when I first started coding. Back then, there was like a phenomenon for Ruby on Rails. Everyone wanted to build a Ruby on Rails app, and all these entrepreneurs were just hiring people who said that they built apps in Ruby on Rails. The problem is that Ruby on Rails, although it's a great framework, it hides a lot of stuff and does a lot of things behind the scenes that even developers can't actually see. So that's what made it so popular, is that you were able to spin up an app really, really quickly. The issue is that you can build an application that maybe scales to 10,000 users or something like that, maybe 50,000 users. But once you scale beyond that point, if your application was built by somebody who didn't actually understand the fundamentals, then you may end up being in a position where you have to throw everything out and start over. And I cannot express how many times I've had people message me saying, "Hey Z, I just spent $50,000 on an app, and it's complete garbage. I have to start over." And my although I do empathize with people like that, I guess my belief is that had people actually had like even the product manager or the entrepreneur at the time, had they had the knowledge to know what was going on, what the developers were doing, and kind of be able to identify certain red flags, perhaps they would have saved themselves quite a bit of money. And that's kind of what I'm seeing right now. And that is like everyone is just putting AI, ML, and sometimes even Web3 in their tagline. Like everything is all about that stuff, from programs to applications to new features to, I don't know, like so-called gurus per se. So I think right now it's about time that people started educating themselves and gaining technical literacy so they can call others out on their bullshit and just protect themselves. Because with the more technology that's out there, the more scams and stuff that's going to happen as well. So it's more important now than it ever has been to gain that technical literacy.
Yeah, that's super interesting, and I really like your example about like losing like $5,000 in an app, like just because
50,000.
you don't have this 50,000. Yeah, sorry, 50,000. Yeah, and that's like really super important. And what I see from the job market right now, like for example, today, 1 hour before our call today, our interview today, the recruiter reached out to me and they needed like product manager unicorn with business knowledge, user knowledge, and also how to read Python. They didn't need like the person who will write a code on Python, but they needed someone who can read Python like syntax. So like they probably like looking for a really like unicorn doing like everything. So what do you think about it?
I mean, that like searching for unicorns, I don't know if is something that a company should do, because you're never gonna, at the end of the day, I mean, you're not gonna find a unicorn. You might find a unicorn, or maybe they're just good at lying. But in any case, I don't know if product managers should be the ones reading code or understanding the code. Like there's a lot of, if the code is easy enough for a product manager, if a product manager can understand the code, then the code is probably far too simple, and it may not necessarily be that useful in the real world. Like code is it can get pretty complicated, especially in large scale applications. But I mean, I obviously don't know the circumstance, so it's hard for me to really comment on that. In any case, though, I think I do agree that there's a degree of technical literacy that people should actually have, as well as some other skills. And product management is one of those fields where sometimes you have to be a bit. It's one of the only fields where you have to be a jack of all trades. But that doesn't mean you have to dive dive so deep into it. You have to have the right level of knowledge in all of those trades.
Yeah. So let's talk about opposite example. Let's say the product manager with like really technical background and can code. And I have like few opinions about that. Like there are some like opinions about that. So some people think that product managers should not be super technical because it can limit their ability to kind of follow the user needs and business needs. So what do you think about it?
Yeah. So, I mean, at the end of the day, people are the more knowledge you have, sometimes like that's obviously going to cater to you're obviously going to have a bias as a result of that. So it's like I've worked with product managers who are former developers, and although I was able to have good conversations with them, there were times where these product managers would do a bit too much, and they would do they would try doing the work of the developers, or making recommendations that the developers didn't see eye to eye on. So there are going to be times where like people who are product managers who are really technical or former developers, they may step on some toes. So it's just important to be aware of those biases and recognize that no matter how technical you are, your developers will always know best. There's no way that your developers will have less technical knowledge than you. If that is the case, then I don't think that's a team that you should be working on. But I would say that at the end of the day, you got to just be aware of your own biases and make sure that you're not stepping on people's toes, because you wouldn't want, product manager would want the developer stepping on their toes and telling them the direction of the product is going on. So going in. So that's, it's a two-way street there.
Yeah. So do not demotivate your developers, even if you know better. Like don't show that. So yeah, like pretend that you don't know. Yeah, you know limited. Yeah, yeah, your knowledge is limited. Perfect. So let's talk about maybe free knowledge in addition to taking courses, because I know that courses is like you need to pay money, but like what other resources or methods can product manager explore to learn technical concepts and skills? Maybe something for free.
Yeah. So there are like lots of there's lots of folks on LinkedIn that are teaching that are teaching either product management, or they're teaching like some technical stuff. For those of you who are interested in system design, Alex Zhu and Arslan Ahmed are both really great teachers as far as system design is concerned. I've learned a lot from them. Now, bear in mind their target audience is developers, so their like posts and whatnot, and the stuff that they're teaching, it might be a bit technical at times, but I would definitely suggest people following those two if they're interested in learning more about system design. There's a few other folks. I'm just trying to think of someone I spoke with recently. Her name is Shaylee Guru. Excuse me, Shaylee Guru. She's a great product manager. I can send you the link afterwards to her profile. She posts some really great content. And I mean, you obviously know Victoria Rubinovich. She's a great product manager, senior product manager at Amazon. Similar story to yourself. She posts some great content as well. So there's lots of really great people out there that I think can shed some light on this the mysterious role that is product management and tech in on a whole.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, I will appreciate if you can share links for those folks with me. And I think my audience has already known Victoria Rubanovich just because we recorded interview with her, and she shared her experience getting a job at Amazon. Actually, 1 year ago, last year, she got a job, and her motivational story, how she prepared for a long time, how she was rejected, and also how she didn't give up and like proceed her dream. So I think this story is super, super inspiring. If you haven't watched it, please do. It's super cool story. I really like it. I like sharing this story with my friends. All right. So what's my last question about any other recommendation. What can you recommend for product managers or who might be concerned about their future in rapidly evolving tech landscape. So something else you can recommend them.
Well, I mean, I don't think I could recommend anything new aside from what I've already said. At the end of the day, I mean, simply put, learn the fundamentals, learn concepts. I mentioned API design, database design, system design. All three of them are stuff that I post content on regularly. All three of them are stuff that I dive into a lot of detail throughout my course, probably the more detail than anyone else does. But at the end of the day, when you master the fundamentals, everything else just falls into place. It doesn't matter which tech company you're working at. It doesn't matter what the tech stack is. It doesn't matter the industry that you're in. These fundamentals are not going to go away anytime soon. And even if they do change ever so slightly, with the rise of AI, machine learning, Web3, as long as you understand those fundamentals, it's easy to build on top of that. So always learn the fundamentals. Just like any other language, like you have to learn the basics before you learn, poetry. So that's the most important thing. Just learn the fundamentals.
Yes. And fundamentals is database design, API design, and system design. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Perfect. Everybody's going to learn fundamentals. Yeah, that will be definitely beneficial for you, and I will do that just for my curiosity. All right. Awesome. Thank you, Zeeshan, for sharing hints for product managers and other non-technical folks on how to be more technical. I hope this will help PMs to be in a better position on the job market and beat competitors and get the job offer and definitely more money. I agree with that.
I absolutely do. Thank you so much for having me, Anna. It was a pleasure, and wishing all of your audience the absolute best in their job hunt or in their career.
Yeah, thank you. And if you like this video, please share this video with your friends, and definitely hit the like button if you like it. And if you have any questions and comments, please leave them in the comment section below. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more valuable content. If you need assistance with refining your resume, optimizing your LinkedIn profile, and preparing for the job interview, you can schedule a session with me at annanaumova.com. And definitely, I will leave all contact information of Zeeshan and his course, so you can find the link on the description in this video as well. So once again, thank you, Zeeshan, and thank you so much, everyone who watching this video. I look forward to having you enjoy me next week. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Anna.